You know that feeling. When something just feels magical? That's exactly how I woke up that morning. My heart was practically bursting with excitement. It wasn't just any day. It was our 10-year wedding anniversary. 10 years of love, of laughter, of building a life together. I had pictured this day in my head so many times, dreaming of how perfect it would be. And now, it was finally here. It had to be special. I started the day by making a reservation at that elegant little restaurant we both loved. The one with the dim lights, soft music, and those cozy tables by the window. Then I went straight to my closet, searching for the perfect dress. Not just any dress, but one that made me feel beautiful, confident, unforgettable. I chose a pair of silver earrings, the ones he gave me on our 3rd anniversary. Sitting at the kitchen table, I pulled out a blank card and started writing. Every word was straight from my heart, a love letter to the man I believed was my forever. By the afternoon, I was carefully wrapping his gift. A beautiful watch he'd been hinting at for months. Something timeless, just like I thought our love was. As I tied the ribbon, I couldn't help but smile, imagining his face when he opened it. My heart felt so full, filled with love, gratitude, and excitement for what the evening would bring. This wasn't just an anniversary, it was a celebration of everything we had overcome. At least, that's what I believed. By late afternoon, I stood in front of the mirror, looking at myself. And for a moment, I actually felt beautiful. Not just on the outside, but in that deep, quiet way. The kind that comes from knowing you've given your heart fully to someone. I slipped on my dress, adjusted my earrings, and ran my fingers through my hair, making sure every little detail felt just right. I wanted tonight to be unforgettable, for both of us. My chest fluttered with anticipation, and honestly, it felt like the night couldn't come soon enough. Right before heading out, I sent Mark a quick text. Just confirming. We're still on for tonight, right? A few minutes later, his reply came in. Busy wrapping things up here. See you tonight. My heart did this silly little flip. Typical him, always caught up in work, but always making time when it mattered. I smiled, feeling reassured. Nothing felt out of place. Everything was unfolding exactly the way it should. I grabbed my clutch, tucked the card inside, and carefully placed the gift in the back seat of my car. As I pulled out of the driveway, I kept picturing his smile, the way his eyes crinkle when he's genuinely happy. For me, tonight wasn't just dinner. It was a symbol, a reminder of how far we'd come. 10 years of love, of laughter, of growing together. And if I'm being honest, I felt proud. Proud of us. Proud of this life we built. Completely unaware. That reality was already rewriting my story. The drive to the restaurant felt different. Not in a bad way. More like this mix of butterflies and pure joy bubbling inside me. I kept glancing at the clock, making sure I wasn't running late. I wanted everything to be perfect, arriving right on time, walking in, seeing him smile when he spotted me. I imagined how he'd stand, pull out my chair, maybe even sneak a kiss on my cheek like he used to. Just the thought of it made me grin like a teenager all over again. When I finally pulled up to the restaurant, my heart did that little skip. I glanced at my reflection one last time in the rearview mirror, smoothed my dress, and whispered to myself, "Okay, this is it." Grabbing the gift and the card, I stepped out, feeling the cool evening breeze brush against my skin. The glow from the restaurant's windows felt warm and inviting. I could already picture the two of us, clinking glasses, laughing, reminiscing about our wedding day. I held on to that image like a treasure. As I walked toward the entrance, I checked my phone one more time. No new messages. Not that it mattered. He'd said he'd meet me here. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding, but in the best way possible. I walked in, expecting to see him there, waiting, smiling, maybe even holding flowers. Completely believing that tonight was exactly what I thought it was. Completely unaware of the storm that was quietly brewing just beyond my view. The moment I stepped inside, my eyes instinctively scanned the room, searching, hoping, expecting. My heart was fluttering in my chest, and I couldn't help but smile as I looked around. But I didn't see him. Maybe he's in the restroom, I told myself, brushing it off. The hostess greeted me with that polite smile, and I gave her his name. "Ah, yes, right this way," she said, leading me to a beautiful table by the window, the one we always preferred. I sat down, carefully placing the gift bag and the card on the table. My eyes kept drifting toward the entrance, waiting for him to walk in. Every time the door opened, my heart jumped, but it was never him. 5 minutes? 10? 15? I checked my phone. No new messages. It's okay, I kept telling myself. He probably got caught up at work. It happens. He's coming. I took a sip of water, glancing at my phone again, willing it to light up. Another 10 minutes passed. The waiter approached, asking softly if I wanted to order a drink while I waited. "Just a glass of wine, please," I mumbled, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. I tried so hard not to spiral, not to let my mind wander to places it shouldn't. But the silence from him, the emptiness of that chair across from me, it was starting to feel heavier than I expected. Still, I clung to the thought that any minute now, he'd walk through that door. 20 minutes turned into 30. I kept refreshing my messages like somehow, magically, a text would appear if I just checked one more time. Nothing. I tried calling, once, then twice, but it went straight to voicemail. No ringing, no chance to even hear his voice. Just that cold, robotic tone. "Mark is unavailable. Please leave a message." My stomach started to twist, that nervous flutter slowly morphing into something heavier, darker. I stared at the empty chair in front of me, my mind racing with excuses. Maybe his phone died. Maybe he got stuck in traffic. Maybe work turned into some kind of crisis. I wanted so badly to believe that, to hold on to that tiny thread of hope. But with every passing minute, that thread felt thinner, weaker. The waiter came by again, his expression a careful balance between polite and uncomfortable. "Would you like to order, or should I give you a few more minutes?" His voice was gentle, like he could sense the ache in my chest. I forced a smile. "Just a little more time." "He's probably on his way," I said, even though my voice didn't sound convincing, not even to me. As he walked away, I stared down at my hands, fiddling with the corner of the napkin. I could feel it, that sinking feeling. Like a knot tightening deep inside my chest. I didn't want to admit it, but something wasn't right. Something was really, really wrong. I sat there trying to hold myself together, but my mind wouldn't stop spinning. Every second felt like an hour. I checked my phone again. Nothing. Not even those 3 little dots. No sign that he was typing, no call, no explanation. Just silence. Deafening, soul-crushing silence. And the longer it dragged on, the harder it became to convince myself this was just some innocent delay. I glanced around the restaurant, watching couples laughing, sharing appetizers, clinking glasses, living the evening I thought I'd be having. And here I was, sitting alone at a table meant for 2, with a gift no one would open and a card no one would read. I could feel the sting behind my eyes, that familiar pressure that always came right before the tears. But I blinked hard, refusing to let them fall. Not here, not now. Then it hit me. That wave of dread so strong it nearly knocked the breath out of me. Check the location app, my brain whispered. The one we always used. For emergencies, for safety, for trust. My fingers trembled as I unlocked my phone. I didn't want to do it. I was terrified of what I might see. But something deep inside told me. I needed to know. I needed the truth, even if it broke me. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely tap the app. For a second, I even hesitated. Part of me praying that maybe, just maybe, it wouldn't load. That there'd be some kind of glitch, or that he'd turned it off. But no, it loaded instantly. And when his little blue dot popped up on the screen, my entire body went cold. He wasn't at the office. Not even close. He was across town, at another restaurant. An expensive one. A romantic one. I stared at the screen, barely breathing. My heart was pounding so loud I swear I could hear it echo in my ears. I zoomed in, double-checking, praying it was wrong. But it wasn't. I knew that place. We'd been there once, years ago, on a date night. My mouth went dry, and my fingers felt numb. I tried to tell myself there had to be an explanation. There had to be. Maybe he's meeting a client. Maybe... But the voice in my head was done lying to me. Without thinking, I grabbed my purse, left some cash on the table, and rushed outside. I don't even remember walking to my car. My hands were trembling so hard it took me 3 tries to get the key in the ignition. But once the engine started, it was like I was on autopilot. I had to see it with my own eyes. No matter how much it hurt, I needed to know. The drive there felt like a blur. A nightmare I couldn't wake up from. My fingers gripped the steering wheel so tightly they hurt, and my chest felt like it was caving in. Every red light, every turn. I kept whispering to myself, please. Let this be some awful misunderstanding. Please. Let me be wrong. But deep down, that tiny voice, the one I'd been trying so hard to ignore, kept whispering the truth I didn't want to face. As I pulled up to the restaurant, I parked a few spots away, just out of view. My hands trembled as I turned off the engine. I sat there for a moment, frozen, trying to gather the courage to look. Part of me wanted to drive away. Pretend I hadn't seen his location. Pretend I was still that woman waiting at a table, believing in the fairy tale. But another part of me, the part that was tired of feeling naive, knew I couldn't. Slowly, carefully, I stepped out of the car. My heart was pounding so violently it felt like it would crack my ribs. I walked toward the sidewalk, toward the big glass windows that lined the front of the restaurant. And then I saw him, right there, sitting at a table by the window, laughing, smiling, reaching across the table, holding her hand. His face, the way he looked at her, it was the look I used to believe was meant for me. For a moment I couldn't breathe. It felt like the ground disappeared beneath me. My hands flew to my mouth, trying to muffle the gasp that escaped. There he was, my husband, the man I spent the entire day planning a celebration for, sitting in front of another woman like he belonged there, like she was the one he'd built 10 years of memories with. His smile was soft, his eyes full of warmth, the same way he used to look at me. I stood there, frozen, watching them. She reached across the table, tracing her fingers over his wrist, right where the watch I had wrapped for him was supposed to go. They laughed, not the polite kind of laughter, but the kind that comes from deep comfort, intimacy. The kind that tears right through you when you realize it's meant for someone else. I could barely process it. My body felt like lead, my mind screaming, "This can't be happening, this can't be real." And yet, it was real. Painfully real. As I stood there in my anniversary dress, with a gift in my car and a card full of words he would never read, I realized something shattered inside me. Something I could never get back. And in that moment, standing there on the sidewalk, staring through that window, I knew. Everything had changed. Everything. And there was no going back. I don't even remember walking back to my car. My legs felt like they weren't mine. Heavy, numb, trembling. I sat behind the wheel, gripping it so tightly my knuckles turned white. For a few minutes I just stared out the windshield, my heart racing, my mind spinning. Tears threatened to fall, but I held them back. Not because I wasn't broken, but because something inside me shifted, something sharp, something done. I started the engine, wiped my face, and whispered to myself, "No. You are not falling apart over this. Not here. Not like this." The drive home was a blur of headlights and street signs. My hands were steady now, steadier than I expected. I wasn't thinking about why he did it. I wasn't thinking about who she was. My mind had cleared into something colder, something focused. There was only one thing left to do. End this. My way. The second I walked through the front door, something snapped into place. I went straight to the closet, grabbed an empty box, and started pulling his things out, one by one. Every shirt, every shoe, every stupid little reminder of him. No hesitation, no second guessing. I folded everything neatly, not for him, but for me. Because this was closure. This was me taking back control of a story I didn't ask to be rewritten. I moved through the house like a machine. His jackets from the hallway closet, gone. His shoes by the door, gone. The toiletries in the bathroom, his razor, his cologne, the one I used to love, all dumped into the box without a second thought. It was strange, really, how something that once felt like home could suddenly feel like an invasion. Like every trace of him didn't belong here anymore. Not in my space, not in my life. When the box was full, overflowing, actually, I dragged it to the front door. I grabbed another box and kept going. His books, his favorite mug, his golf gear. Every little thing that used to scream Mark was now just clutter in a life I no longer recognized. I didn't cry, not a single tear. Not because it didn't hurt, but because the hurt had turned into something else entirely. Something sharper, something stronger. A line had been drawn, and I was the one holding the pen now. Then, I walked over to the dining table. The same table where I had carefully placed his anniversary card earlier. The same table where, just this morning, I had imagined us laughing, sharing dinner, celebrating us. My hands reached for the card, but instead of tearing it up, I left it exactly where it was, right next to the gift. And then, an idea hit me. One final, undeniable message, one he wouldn't be able to talk his way out of. I pulled out my phone, opened the photo I'd taken, the one of him sitting at that table holding her hand, smiling like the man I thought I knew never existed. For a second, I just stared at it, letting it burn into my memory. Then I hit print, simple, cold, final. Within minutes, I had it in my hands. I grabbed a frame from the shelf, one that once held a picture of us on vacation, and slipped the photo inside. Fitting, really. A perfect replacement. I placed that framed photo right there, center stage on the dining table. Next to it, the card I had written with every ounce of love I had. And the gift, still perfectly wrapped, ribbon untouched. But now, I added something else. A note. Nothing dramatic. Nothing angry. Just a simple truth. I wrote, "While I was celebrating our marriage, you were ending it. Goodbye." 11 words. That's all it took to sum up the wreckage of a decade. Then, I walked over to the front door, opened it, dragged both boxes, every last piece of him, outside. right there on the porch, for him to find, for him to understand. I stood there for a second, staring at those boxes, realizing this was the last time anything with his name on it would ever sit in front of my house. And then, I turned around, locked the door, and changed the locks. The next morning felt different, quieter, lighter, almost surreal. I woke up alone, but not lonely. There was no text from him, no missed calls, no desperate apologies waiting for me, just silence. And for the first time in a very long time, that silence felt like freedom. I walked through the house barefoot, passing the now empty spots where his things used to be. And instead of sadness, there was relief. A strange, powerful sense of relief. I made coffee, just for me. No extra cup, no morning routine that revolved around anyone else. I sat by the window, watching the sun creep through the blinds, and whispered to myself, "It's over. Really over." It was scary. Sure. But underneath the fear, something stronger was blooming, something that felt a lot like courage. I realized the life I thought I had, it was never really mine. Not the way I deserved. But now it could be. In the days that followed, I didn't waste time waiting for explanations that would never come. I called my lawyer, filed for divorce, blocked his number, told close friends and family the truth, every raw, painful detail, not out of revenge, but because I refused to carry his secrets anymore. This was no longer a story of betrayal. This was a story about taking my power back, about rewriting my own ending and beginning. The funny thing is, once the dust started settling, I realized how much of myself I had put on hold. How many dreams I'd tucked away, thinking, someday, when there's time. Well, that someday became today. I booked my first therapy session, not because I was broken, but because I was ready to heal, to unpack years of shrinking myself, of bending, of compromising. Not for love, but for survival. And that chapter, that's closed now. I started filling my days with things that were just for me. Long walks, journaling, cooking meals I actually loved, not the ones he preferred. I signed up for a pottery class, something I'd always wanted to try but never had time for. And slowly, bit by bit, that ache in my chest started to soften. It wasn't gone, not yet, but it didn't own me anymore. I was finally learning how to exist. For me. And you know what surprised me the most? The strength. This deep, unshakable strength I didn't even know I had. I wasn't just surviving this. I was reclaiming every single piece of myself that I'd lost along the way. The woman who once waited at a restaurant table, full of hope and love, was gone. And in her place stood someone new, someone stronger, someone wiser, someone who would never again settle for being second choice. Weeks later, I found myself sitting at a beautiful restaurant, the very same one where I had waited for him that night. But this time, I wasn't waiting for anyone. I walked in, chin high, heart steady, and asked for a table for one. The hostess smiled, probably thinking I was meeting someone. I wasn't. I was meeting myself. I chose the best seat by the window, ordered my favorite dish, and for the first time in a long time, I felt completely at peace. As I sipped my wine, I looked around, couples laughing, friends catching up, but none of it made me feel small anymore. I wasn't the woman sitting there, wondering if she was enough. I wasn't questioning my worth, my value, or whether someone would show up for me. No. I was there because I finally showed up for myself. And let me tell you, that was the most powerful feeling in the world. When the waiter brought the check, I raised my glass, smiled softly to myself, and whispered, "Here's to me." and to never being someone's second choice again. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't the anniversary I had once dreamed of. It was something better. It was the anniversary of my freedom, of choosing me, of starting the rest of my life, exactly on my own terms.